Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be joined by Paige Arnof-Fenn from Mavens Moguls, a global strategic marketing consulting firm, because marketing matters. Paige, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Seth. I'm thrilled to be chatting with you today.
It is our pleasure. Let's go back in time a little bit. How did you get into the world of marketing?
Through the back door. I think everybody has crazy stories when you wasn't it Steve Jobs that said careers only make sense looking backwards, not forwards. I actually started my career on Wall Street in the 80s, which was a complete departure. But I got into marketing in coming out of business school. I was a summer intern at Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati, and P&G is probably the most recognized marketing company in the world. And I went back there after I graduated with my MBA and stayed there about 3.5 years and did kind of 3 chapters of marketing in my career. The first chapter was the corporate, Coca-Cola, P&G. Then I headed up marketing at 3 successful startups that all had good exits. And then 22 years ago, I hung out a shingle and started my own marketing firm.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure there's plenty of lessons learned along the way. What inspired you to start Mavens Moguls?
So 9/11 had just happened. And you're maybe old enough to remember, I don't know.
I was working, so yes, I thank you for the compliment.
But then you remember marketing jobs and marketing budgets were slashed after 9/11. The stock market dropped and every business was trying to conserve their cash and proceeded to pretty much lay off their marketing departments and cut their budgets. And I had just gotten bought out of my 3rd startup. So I wasn't desperate, but I was young. I was in my early 30s and not ready to retire by any means. And having been the head of marketing at 3 successful startups that were all venture backed and they all had good exits, people started coming out of the woodwork asking me to help them because they no longer had marketing departments, but they still had marketing problems. And my first instinct was, I'm not a consultant, I'm the client, I'm the chief marketing officer. I'm really bad at PowerPoint. And I thought that's what consultants did. And, these venture capitalists, private equity guys, and business owners said, I don't need any more PowerPoint. I need someone who knows what to do to roll up their sleeves and help. And you helped me before, you helped my portfolio companies. Please, can you kind of help us? And my instinct was to say no. And my husband said, Paige, there's a red flashing sign in front of you. These people need your help. You know what you're doing. You know tons of people. You should help them. So I started calling all my favorite marketing people from my career in corporate marketing and startup marketing. And sure enough, everybody had just gotten laid off. And everybody was sitting on the sidelines waiting for things to pick up. I had people who were available. I had projects that needed help, and I put them together. And I called the women the marketing mavens and the guys the marketing moguls. For short, in my emails, I'd be like, hey, Mavens and Moguls, I have a new project. Who's interested? Who has some ideas? And it just took off from there. I call myself the accidental entrepreneur. I was not looking to start a company. I never wrote a business plan. I never thought this would be the longest chapter in my career, but it certainly is.
Wow. Well, that's an incredible journey. Who is an ideal client for you now?
So we work with pre-revenue, venture-backed startups that need logos, taglines, websites. We work on the other extreme with Fortune 500 businesses that have marketing departments and ad agencies and agencies of record, but they don't have the specific help they need. But the majority of our clients are kind of in between mid-market and emerging market firms, 2 million to 200 million in revenue. They can't really justify the overhead and expense of a fully staffed marketing department. And if they hired one of the big Madison Avenue agencies, they'd never be a very important client because they've got these Fortune 500, 800-pound gorillas. So they wouldn't get the best talent and they wouldn't be the biggest priority. So we're kind of available at kind of every end of the spectrum. We love working with small, medium, and large companies, but about 2/3 of our clients are in the middle bucket.
And what are some of the biggest marketing mistakes that they're making that you're helping them solve?
There's so many marketing mistakes out there that you can see every day. I think one of the big ones right now, as the digital marketing landscape is just fasten your seatbelt. It's changing every day. I think a lot of clients don't think of themselves as being an important brand. And I guess I would argue everyone is a brand today. You do not have to be, Xerox, IBM, General Motors, or LeBron James, Serena Williams, Taylor Swift, Beyonce to be a brand. Everybody's on social platforms. Everybody's got an online presence. We learned how important that was during COVID. And if you're out there, you're a brand. And if you don't define your brand, your competition's they're gonna define it for you. So I would argue that everybody needs to really take their own brand seriously, because if you don't define your brand, you're a commodity. And if you're a commodity, you're competing on price. And that is a very dangerous place to be in. And once you agree, okay, I'm a brand, you need to be consistent across all the platforms and all the touch points. You want to look, and everything needs to be in sync. You can't be one kind of brand in one environment and a different kind of brand somewhere else, because a brand is a promise. You're having a relationship with your customer to say, I'm going to show up every day. You can trust me. You're going to get a consistent experience every time you get my product or service. And if you start mixing the messages, or you start not showing up in a consistent fashion, you're muddying the waters and diluting your brand. So that, I think, is one of the most critical lessons. And your brand has to be authentic. And I've listened to lots of your podcast, and that has come through with so many of your guests. And I couldn't agree more. Authentic brands are what stand out. That's people want to associate with brands that they like and know and trust, and that they really feel the connection.
So how do you help us pull that off?
It is not it's not easy, but it's super important. You have to start with kind of auditing all your messaging and communications and see where the outliers are, and check the competitive landscape. You want to own specific real estate in your customer's brain, so that every time they have a problem that your product or service can fix, that they think of you first. So look and see that, where the outliers are. Look and see where the real estate is open for you to own it. And then you want to find that unique value proposition, the words and pictures that tell your story in a very compelling way. And that every time you show up, you're adding to those messages. You can't stand for 10 different things. People can't remember that much. And you want to be known and remembered for one or two things that you do better than anybody else in the market. And you want to constantly reinforce that in everything that you do. And if you can get that right, and again, with all these social media platforms, I'd argue that you don't need to be on everything, because again, that kind of can dilute your brand. You want to show up in the ones that best represent your brand in a consistent way that plays to your strengths. If you don't like to blog, then do not start a blog. It's a much better idea to contribute to other well-trafficked blogs in your category, and then you don't have the weight of the world on your shoulders, because bloggers need to post, in a very consistent manner. If you do it 3 times the first week, 1 time the second week, then skip a week or 2 because you get busy, that's training your audience that you're kind of flaky. And if you're not continuing to kind of fuel the fire and keep the conversation going, no one's going to follow it anyway. So if there's great blogs that you like and you follow, be that consistent voice on someone else's blog, put your contact information at the bottom, and be known as, wow, every time this Seth Greene, every time he comments, he says something really smart. I agree with him. Who is this guy? Then they go to your site, they follow everything you're doing, and you become a kind of well-respected thought leader in your industry. If you like to go on Twitter, X, great, but don't do it just because you think everybody's doing it. For me, LinkedIn is the biggest priority. For a professional service business where you want to, share your content, share your ideas, that's great for me. People aren't looking for me on Facebook. That is not my thing. So I think, pick your platform, pick your lane, and show up on a regular basis with a consistent message. And, if you can do that well, you are so far ahead of the game today.
That makes sense 100%. I absolutely agree with you. You've had a very long history of working with incredible clients and generating amazing results. Can you share kind of a case study with us of here's what they were hiring, the issue they had, and then how you were able to help them, and kind of the miracle that you were able to work?
So I grew up in New Orleans, and we had an industrial products client in New Orleans the year before Katrina hit, the big hurricane. And they needed help with their branding and their messaging. We helped them come up with a new logo, a new tagline, and we talked to people throughout the organization to kind of surface what the core messages were and to kind of put together a holistic marketing strategy for them. So a few months into the project, Katrina hit, and it really shut down New Orleans. People had to evacuate for months. It happened over the summer, and the power grid went down. Everybody evacuated and spread out all over the country, and they couldn't come back until after the holidays, 5 months later. And what we learned in that process, we helped this commodity. They were an industrial switchgear company, electrical switching gears, the gray boxes that you see in establishments all over the world. But this company wasn't just a commodity. Again, they were a brand that happened to be associated with the biggest monuments and structures, the Louisiana Superdome, the Eiffel Tower, bridges, monuments. Like this was the premier electrical switching gear company in the world. And they were literally, they were all over in all the power platforms, the oil platforms in the ocean. I mean, where power really matters. And what we were able to do is to brand them. These gray boxes turned into kind of marketing material, like the Pentagon and the Department of Defense use their boxes. So we painted those boxes in camouflage. So we started to brand the gray boxes with colors and, designs that really made the company realize that, you know, this isn't an invisible partner. This is a branded premium product. And, you know, and it helped them with their sales, with the messaging, the logo, the tagline, helped them with their brand in recruiting. And when the city reopened and all the employees came back, they had all these amazing stories to tell about how they helped their clients while they were dispersed around the country. They had moved to Arizona and Texas and Florida and Georgia. And they had a huge trade show right as things were reopening up. And the show Survivor was just starting to be very popular on TV. And we did a trade show theme where this company were the survivors of Katrina. And we sent out information, marketing material to everybody at the trade show. They ended up being the belle of the ball. There were lines around the trade show for people to come to their booth, and it was just magic. So they went from being this kind of invisible industrial product to a beloved brand that people wanted to come and meet the survivors who had, you know, kept the wheels on the bus the entire during all the ups and downs of post-Katrina. And, you know, they were able to hire and recruit amazing people who wanted to be part of the next chapter of the company. So having a great brand, it can help you with your existing clients. It can help you find new clients. It can help you retain employees and find new great employees.
All right. Well, that's an incredible result and amazing story, and has so many. I mean, you could probably do an hour or two just on all the lessons we could learn. There's the do-gooder element. There's the taking something that was faceless. I mean, there's so much gold in there. I wish we had more time, but we greatly appreciate you spending your very valuable time with us. Paige, for our folks watching and listening who want to learn more, where is the best place for them to go to get a hold of you?
So my website, mavensandmoguls.com, MAVENSANDMOGULS.com, or go to LinkedIn, Paige Arnof-Fenn. And if you Google Paige and Mavens, thank God for search engine optimization, I'll pop up that way too.
All right. Thank you so much. This has been Seth Greene with Paige Arnof-Fenn of Mavens and Moguls. Paige, thanks again. Everyone, thank you for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.